All right, and we are live. Welcome everyone to the Bite Back Tour in the city of Walnut. We're going to do a quick round of introduction, but this is a half hour of informal conversations where we talk about all things mosquito control. So I'll go ahead and start off with my introduction, and I'll go ahead and just call each person and you can introduce yourself. My name is Levy Sun. I'm the Public Information Officer at the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. We're gonna go around the circle here. Carol Ann, go ahead and start. Oh, you're muted, Carol Ann.
Thought my mute was out. My apologies. I am one of the education specialists at the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District.
All right, Pablo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pablo Cabrera, and I'm the communication specialist here at the district.
Okay, and Ali.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ali Gaspar, and I'm the outreach assistant here at the district. And I'm also currently at Walnut Library, right next to City Hall in Walnut.
All right, and then we have Stephen.
Hi everyone, my name is Steven Gallegos. I work in the operations department. I'm a specialist too, and I manage Walnut, Laverne, Claremont, and Pomona.
And where are you located right now?
Right now, I'm actually at Snow Creek here in Walnut. You guys want to take a look? Just a little bit of the creek. So very high traffic area that always needs inspections.
Very cool, thank you. And lastly from our district, staffing, Jimena.
Hello, I'm actually stepping in for somebody that usually does the surveillance in Walnut and is unable to be here today. But my name is Jimena. I'm an assistant vector ecologist, and I work in the surveillance department, which means that I do all of the trapping and testing for the mosquitoes to see if there's any viruses in the area.
Thank you so much, Jimena. And finally, another very special guest to join us. And for you Walnut residents, you might recognize him, Dr. Alan Wu, who happens to be our trustee. Dr. Alan Wu, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Alan Wu. I'm the City Council member of City of Walnut, and glad to be here, and so happy to see you guys in our city of Walnut. Thank you. And hopefully our goal is to have a wonderful and beautiful environment in the city of Walnut and all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wu, and definitely make it more bite-free. So let's move into just some general announcements. It has been announced by our agency that West Nile virus is quite active and circulating in our region. We have already had a couple mosquito samples come up positive, and also some dead birds, one dead bird so far that have come up positive for West Nile virus. So I want to remind everyone just to be mindful of that, but we'll get into the details of what you can do to protect yourself in Walnut. If you're just tuning in, you're probably a Walnut resident or maybe from beyond. Welcome. This is the Bite Back Tour in Walnut. You're probably watching us live on our website or on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop it into the comment box, and we'll be sure to monitor for that. Something else that's really exciting is that we have recently been partnering with the Walnut Valley Water District, and we were featured quite prominently throughout California for the first collaboration ever done between a mosquito control agency and a water district. This is the first in LA County, and we're really proud of that accomplishment. Personally, I thought this is a no-brainer. Water, mosquitoes, you put those worlds together. It's a great public health and water conservation message. Something else that's happened this week is National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. A big shout out to other vector control districts out there putting out great content. There's one that I'm really enjoying, and that's the meme remix. And this is where they take very popular memes or like photos with text on it and modify it for mosquito control. So here's what I want to share with you that I thought is very relevant. Just shows someone ready to enjoy the summer, and next thing you know, you have mosquitoes coming up behind you to completely ruin your enjoyment of that summer. So this is from the West Valley Mosquito Control and West Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. But throughout our tour stop today in Walnut, I will share a couple of these different memes that I have found online. But let's kick it off with talking about these darn mosquitoes. For our agency, we help in terms of monitoring and hopefully controlling any potential disease outbreaks from these mosquitoes. We start out actually with Jimena and surveillance because they're usually the ones, or are the ones, that help set out the trap. So Jimena, could you tell us a little bit about what surveillance does?
Sure. We go out to different areas throughout our district. And what we do is we place traps in strategic locations where we believe that monitoring these areas are going to give us an idea as to what the conditions are in terms of diseases. And we set the traps, we pick them up, we bring them back to the lab, we identify them. Depending on the species, there's different diseases that different mosquitoes may transmit. So we separate them, put them into vials, and then we test them to see if there's any viruses in any of those mosquitoes. And that's how we know whether the disease is starting to pick up in the area. That's how we know to send out more resources into specific areas where there might be more activity going on.
All right, and then I understand that the traps, I actually get a couple residents from Walnut asking, well, do these traps trap all the mosquitoes out of the environment so it makes them more bite-free, or is it meant to be like a sampling?
So it will unfortunately not remove every single mosquito from your yard. If
Darn.
it did, we would we would really love that, but no, it just takes a very small portion of what's actually, it's a sample of what's actually going on in the area. But what it usually tells us is, one, is there a lot of mosquitoes out there? So how many of them are out? What types of mosquitoes there are, which tells us about what kinds of diseases could be transmitted. And it also tells us whether the diseases are actually there once we test them.
Okay. And then do you happen to have any like maybe images or videos or something to show us of these collections or what you might see in a trap?
Sure, yeah, I shared some of my samples. And here we have, so on the bottom left, that little tiny thing, Stephen will most likely cringe when he sees this. It's a black fly. It's not a mosquito, it's actually a gnat. But it's a biting gnat. And so these can actually transmit parasites. They're also a very big nuisance. They're very, very tiny, very difficult to see. And so if you're seeing these little black things flying around you in areas where there's flowing water, it could most likely be these black flies that are actually biting you. If we move a little bit more to the right, we'll see that this is the southern house mosquito is the one that we usually find most of the West Nile virus active in. They're plain brown. You'll see them come out at dusk and dawn at night. You know, usually you turn the lights off at night. They come in and they try to bite you while you're sleeping. These are the ones that are doing that. If you move a little bit more to the right, so this is similar to the one you just saw, which was the southern house mosquito. This is actually known as it's known as the primary vector for West Nile virus. It's a Culex tarsalis, and it's a little bit difficult to see here, but there are these stripes on the legs. And it has a white band on the proboscis, which is what they use to actually, probe and get your blood from you. So this is known as a primary vector, which just means that they're very good at transmitting the disease, but they're fairly uncommon. We usually see the southern house mosquito more. And so that's why we tend to pick up West Nile virus more in the other one, although it's a secondary vector. If we move a little bit more, this is a Chelicida incidence. They're a lot meatier, larger than the other mosquitoes that you saw, and a lot larger than the gnat that we saw at the beginning. But this one also has a little bit of these stripes that you could kind of see on the legs. And if you're able to, Pablo, could you turn it on so it's on its back?
Yeah, it definitely looks a lot bigger, almost a little meatier.
That's good. Yes, it is. So I'm trying to get a good view of that wing. But if you look at the wing in comparison to the other ones, you see this patchy pattern, right? So you kind of see that there's darker areas, whereas on the one on the right, whereas on the other one, it's a little bit more solid and even. So that's a really big, one of the big things that differentiate these two mosquitoes from each other. The Chelicida genera of mosquitoes generally are not known to transmit diseases. They're more of a nuisance mosquito. So if you're going to have any mosquitoes, those are the ones that you want to have. But you should still dump your water.
Very cool.
And that was it for me.
So it looks like, contrary to popular belief, there actually are quite a lot of different types of mosquitoes. I think would say more than 3,000 around the world.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, there's a bunch of them.
And I think it's a good reminder for those of you just tuning in. This is the Bite Back Tour in the city of Walnut. We just talked with Jimena, who works in our surveillance department, and she was just showing us what kind of mosquitoes or even insects are caught in our traps. We're also joined by other special guests, Carol Ann from our communications, and then Stephen from our operations, and of course, our trustee, Dr. Wu. If you have any questions at all or any comments, please feel free to drop them into the comment box wherever you're watching, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or on our website, and we'll be sure to address them as we go along. So now that we know that Jimena and her team are out there trapping the mosquitoes and collecting a bunch of data, I will turn it over to Stephen and kind of ask you, Stephen, how do you tend to use that data and apply it to where you are in Walnut?
So with surveillance, when they have their traps set out, and it's a lot of work, a lot of hard work. There's multiple traps in each city. Walnut, we have some here in Snow Creek. There's Lemon Creek, and I believe also Creekside Park that's also trapped. So once we get those numbers back, there's a certain threshold we kind of look at to make sure, things are kind of getting out of hand, or they might need more of our attention. A lot of these sites are on a routine inspection, so they're not, just left to just leave them be. We always try to get an eye on something or to make sure it's not going to be an issue for the public. So when I look at the trap numbers, I also look at species, because as Samantha mentioned, certain species have certain preferences. 80s is more of a smaller container breeder, and then you have Culex, different species of Culex, and some prefer more like lake water, some prefer more foul water. It's a mix. So depending on what species we get, also depends on where we should look. If I'm getting something that prefers more foul water, I'm looking at drains, gutters, anywhere that's most likely runoff, wash drains. If we're having more 80s in the area, then it's going to be more of a residential situation. We'll have to kind of use a fine-tooth comb to kind of see what we have in the area. For specifically Walnut, I noticed more of residential, not being an issue, but it's more that requires my attention. And also these natural creeks and wash drains we have, just to kind of give you an idea, if you're not already a citizen of Walnut or been in the area.
All right, field trip.
You have some wildlife there. You see the nice little crane.
Oh yeah.
So what we have here, we have spots where we have more of a flow, as you can see straight ahead. And then we have spots where, we have different inlets and areas where it becomes stagnant. So it really just depends on the weather and how we actually, how we move forward with dealing with that weather, because we can get a lot of sun. That's going to cause more of a drought issue. So that's going to lessen the water, create more stagnant puddles. If we have more rain, usually things get flushed out, works a little bit better, but that's usually not mosquito season. So it does help us, but when we're having 90-degree weather, it's definitely an issue. So, using those chop numbers, we also work with the underground department, or not underground department. We have an underground drain crew. We have a flood channel crew. We also get with them to see what's in the area, if they need to inspect something soon.
That's a good point to make, Stephen. Our underground storm drain team, because a lot of residents may think mosquitoes are only active right now, and during the winter, mosquitoes somehow disappear, they migrate south, or whatever reason they may think. But yeah, mosquitoes are in our city environment year round, and our underground storm drain, if anyone's watching, you may notice some bright yellow, neon yellow green trucks that may stop every now and then in the streets of Walnut. You'll see them pop open the lid and inspect. And that's because deep underground there in our storm drains and catch basins, mosquitoes love to hang out there because it's a nice, safe environment for them. They're not exposed to the hot heat or the cold temperatures throughout the year. Cool. Thank you for that ride along too. I got a good sense of the creek behind you. You're giving Miss Frizzle from Magic School Bus a run for her money.
Yeah, that's a small portion of the creek as well. There's still a northern end, and there's about, I think, 3 or 4 more in Walnut. So definitely is a good amount of work, but it's not too bad of a scenery, to be honest.
Yeah,
a concrete.
I will say,
Stephen, a quick question: in an environment like that, would you put mosquito fish in a creek like that?
Yes, actually, I was gonna. Well, not too far, but there's actually some mosquito fish in this creek as well. We might be able to see them as I get closer. But we do add mosquito fish into natural ponds. If it's, we got to be careful where we put these fish. Make sure they're not going into any waterways that are going to lead them to somewhere they're not supposed to be. I don't know if you can tell too much here, but there's tons of smaller fish.
oh yeah.
Kind of see them swimming around.
Yeah, for those of you watching, it's the Bite Back Tour in the city of Walnut. Stephen from Operation is showing us what tools they may use to control mosquitoes, including the use of our finned friends, our mosquito fish. And mosquito fish, they at first glance look like guppies, but they are definitely hardy and they can survive in water like those in the creek there.
Utilized in a lot of different ways, and you get a long-term result from them as well. Really low maintenance. Once they kind of establish themselves, they kind of take care of the mosquitoes. And honestly, it doesn't help to have some life in a property. Need some fish for a pond that's missing some. It doesn't help to have a little safety net, even if it's a functional system. It'll kind of help everything kind of thrive in the area.
Very good point. Well, thank you, Stephen, for giving us some insight into the operations department and how you use the tools and the data to get the work done and make Walnut a more bite-free place. I know Walnut has a lot of great trails, equestrian trails, so people love being outdoors in Walnut, and that's what makes Walnut so beautiful. So thank you, Stephen, for all the work you do out there in the field, along with Jimena. But we also want to turn over to Carol Ann, because we cannot forget that we have the little ones, the ones that are in schools. They're very important to educate and understand their role in the city of Walnut and how what they do can impact the environment. So really quick, anyone can jump in at any time to ask any questions. If you're watching online, feel free to drop in in the chat box a question or comment. But Caroline, can you tell us about how we use all this information to educate students?
Well, we draw the information from operations and from surveillance to educate kids on how they can participate in making the environment around their homes more welcoming, and so they don't feel like they're being held hostage by mosquitoes. And it's the steps that they can take as far as dumping out water and eliminating containers are very doable for even kindergarten age kids. So we don't focus on one grade. We're K through 12. And we give kids, the older kids, even more responsibility. So we've got grid that's available, grades 3 through 8. We kind of focus on that. That allows the grid kids to participate using surveillance tools, the oviposition cups, which we call the detection lures, which allow kids to monitor the area or around their home for Aedes mosquito eggs. And that gives them the power to determine whether there's presence or absence, because sometimes these mosquitoes are hard to see. There's, just a few of them. Unfortunately, one Aedes mosquito can give you multiple bites. So just having a few in the area around your home can be quite a nuisance as well as a danger. So we supply these kids with the same tools that our operations and our surveillance people use. And then they report back. So that also gives us data for, determining what kind of mosquitoes are where. So we also have another one called VIP, which allows kids to take water samples, and then they turn those in and we can see what kind of genus of mosquitoes living in their backyard. So all kinds of fun things for kids to get involved in, and they're really good at observing. And one thing that Stephen talked about is, taking advantage of natural predators. And the kids really notice stuff that's around their backyard. So they often ask me about these large insects called dragonflies and damselflies, and whether they're dangerous and do they bite. And they're often happy to hear that dragonflies and damselflies are actually beneficial. Not only do they catch insects on the wing that are active during the day, and that would be, some of the Aedes mosquitoes, but their babies live in the water, and they look a lot like dragonflies, only without wings, and they're down in the water. They have 6 legs. They have a dragonfly-like head, but they just don't lack the wings, and they'll have little fins on the backs of their tails. So if you see any of those are not bad. They're actually very good, because they're great at cleaning out green swimming pools or any kind of stagnant water once they become established. Unfortunately, they don't move into some of the smaller sources that are found in our sources of water and mosquitoes in our backyards. So more natural areas like Snow Creek and some of those places is where you'll see the dragonflies, but they often end up in our backyards hunting. And so I tell people, don't spray those. Those are beneficial insects we want to preserve.
All right,
And Carol Ann,
that's a great point.
A quick question to that as well for parents and teachers. If I'm a parent or a teacher, do I have to pay for EcoHealth to come to my classroom or my summer programs?
It's all taken care of. Yeah, it's free. So, Walnut parents, you ask your teachers in the fall to have us come in. We're going to be doing our community citizen science programs, both grid and VIP. And, we may have some spaces available by the time school starts. So, ask the teacher, because it's a really cool, fun, hands-on activity the kids can do. And, it doesn't take any effort on the teacher's part other than just sign up, and then we do all the rest. So it's, I know that there's going to be a lot of catching up to do this fall, but this is a good activity for the students to do that.
And Caroline, where do people sign up to get this
That's
program?
the vectoreducation.org. That's our education website.
All right. Well, thank you so much. If you're just tuning in, this is the Bite Back Tour in the city of Walnut. We have different folks in our district here talking about all things mosquitoes and how we make sure you stay safe and healthy. We also are joined by our trustee, Dr. Wu. Next, we're just going to go ahead and actually just with the 5 minutes we have left, let's dive into a little about repellent use, because we know West Nile virus is out there. We know West Nile virus is circulating. One of the best ways to protect yourselves, aside from putting on dumping out stagnant water, is putting on some repellent. So I think Allie, you have some repellent there, right? Out when you're where you're at?
Yeah, actually, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, Levy. I'm outside, and anytime you're outside, it's the perfect time to wear repellent. As everyone was mentioning earlier, it only takes one bite, to risk infection. So I want to make sure that I'm protected. And since I'm outside and it's been sunny, I made sure to put sunblock on before. And now that that's dry, I can actually go ahead and use repellent. The thing that you really want to know is the active ingredient on the repellent label. You want to make sure that it's one of the 4 CDC recommended ingredients: oil of lemon eucalyptus, also known as PMD, DEET, picaridin, and IR 3535. And the way you want to apply it is you just want to apply to any exposed skin, and you don't want to overdo it. Definitely follow the directions on the label. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray myself on this side.
So the key here sounds like we need to apply repellent on all exposed skin, not just on the arms, and that's about it.
Yeah, that also includes like your neck and your face. I'm currently wearing a mask right now, but everywhere else on your face. You don't want to ever spray it directly into like your face or your eyes, or even onto children. You just want to make sure that the adult will go ahead and just spray it into the hands and then pat and apply where necessary. And as you can see here, those are the 4 ingredients again that you should be looking for.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much, Ali, for that quick tutorial. Now, we're about wrapping up here. If you're just tuning in, this is the Bite Back Tour in the city of Walnut. We talked a lot about what our surveillance department does to monitor for diseases in the community, especially in Walnut. We talked to Stephen, who talked about his work in Walnut and in the surrounding cities. And we talked about how teachers in Walnut can get free citizen science education programs from our EcoHealth program. And for those of you who need to know another tip to stay bite free, Ali just showed us on how to apply repellent. One quick thing to note, I must say this because I have driven around Walnut, beautiful city, beautiful yards. But I must advise everyone to please ditch the density of vegetation because these mosquitoes that are flying around, they can't survive this heat. So what do? They look for nice, cool, and sometimes humid areas on your yard to seek safety from the heat. And that can come in the form of non-native plants like tropical plants. Dense vegetation like ivy crawling across the ground or on the wall. So make sure you just reduce the amount of those kinds of vegetation and use California native plants because it will, as pointed out by Caroline and Stephen, it will actually help out the beneficial insects in Walnut. The dragonflies, the damselflies, the bees, the butterflies, they will benefit from California native plants. And since also we're in a drought, it really helps out to not use so much water. So as you see on the picture there, that's a really good photo of a yard that has started using California native plants. All right. So with that, this rounds out the Bite Back Tour in the city of Walnut. So I'm going to go ahead and go around real quick and have people just say any last parting words for our residents. So I'll start with Stephen.
Just want to say thanks to everyone. Just let me get involved and kind of speak to the public and also just educate as many people as we can. Just the main thing I would say, it's always best to protect you and your family, just because if you're doing everything you need to, but if someone near you is not, you might feel those effects. So make sure you're tipping out any stagnant water in your property, tossing out any or getting rid of any containers or anything that might hold water that's no longer in use. And just protect yourself for that repellent.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. I'll go to Ali, and after that, I'll go to Pablo after Ali.
Oh, sorry, it took a while there. I just want to remind everyone to always wear repellent when you guys are outside, and make sure that you're applying it correctly. We want you guys to stay safe, to stay healthy, and to stay bite-free. So that always includes repellent responsibility. And thank you so much for listening.
Okay, Pablo, and after Pablo will be Caroline.
Yeah, and jumping off of what Ali said and what Libby mentioned earlier, this week is National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. While we've been celebrating Mosquito Awareness Week, it should really be Mosquito Awareness Week every week. just reminding residents to tip out stagnant water and toss any unused containers or store them in a dry area where they won't collect water. Making that a weekly habit when you're out throwing out the trash is an easy and effective way to prevent mosquitoes in our communities like in Walnut. Thank you, Paulo. Caroline, and after Caroline will be Dr. Wu.
Okay, just parting thought would be work with nature. So lean more towards good quality water. That means if it's sitting there stagnant, it's poor water quality, you want to dump it out. Focus on native plants rather than introduced, and that will encourage the native species and predators and reduce the number of mosquitoes around your home.
All right, thank you. And go ahead, Dr. Wu. And after Dr. Wu will be Jimena.
Oh, yes, as the trustee member of the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District, and also the city council member, I want to thank all you guys' effort to protect the environment and also the public health issue in the city of Walnut. And another thing is it's very good. I'm so excited and proud of the district and the Walnut Valley Water District combining together to join force to protect public health issue, water leak. Any water leak will causing the mosquito problem, the resident can call the Walnut Valley Water District to resolve the water leak, identify the water leak issue, and that also will minimize the chance of the mosquito come out, and then and also better for the public health. Thank you guys.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Wu. Very good points about water conservation. And then lastly, Jimena.
Hi, I wanted to actually thank Dr. Wu for bringing up the fact that people can report things. We do a lot of times rely on the public to give us tips. And so definitely, if you guys happen to see any dead birds out there, please report that. There is a bird hotline that you can call, or you can call our district, and we can go out there to Walnut, pick up the bird, and we can test it to make sure that there's no diseases around there. If you see any stagnant water with mosquitoes in it, you can also report that as well. So we all like to work together. We like hearing from you. And thank you for staying safe out there.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. That will now conclude our show for the Bite Back Tour in the city of Walnut. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Wu. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay